Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
Hey everybody, welcome to Business Coaching Secrets. It is your boy Christian here, aka the Road Dog, with the man of the hour himself to answer all of your questions, the King, Karl Bryan.
Yo ho ho, Road Dog, my brother. What's happening, man?
Not a ton, just sorting through more questions, and people are obviously there's some sort of not usual questions in here. There's one that definitely sticks out, which I guess could be sort of quarantine, been sitting around perhaps a little too much. So that's a little bit of a tease for you there. What's going on with you?
Oh, buddy, work, sleep, bro. Been going since about 4:45 this morning, and I'm ready to rock it, man. Looking forward to some questions, though. Let's do this.
All right. Hey, by the way, has your routine changed at all? Like, it's funny because, like as entrepreneurs, and for the most part, we've been living in self-isolation pretty much most of our lives. It is interesting to see how some people are freaking out, but has your routine changed at all?
Yeah, instead of working until 5:30, I'm working until 7:30. How's that sound? That's how I'm doing it. But yeah, we're cranking it. But same deal, man. For the most part, home office, come cruising down here, do my thing, try to work out a little bit, try to get cranking a little bit, and try to get out of this office so the family can get to know me a little bit, which is exciting for them. And that's what I got, man. But same routine, dude. Same routine.
Nice. So it's funny that you mentioned the working out a little bit, because that actually I teased a little bit there at the beginning, but that's actually the first question here, and I find it. I'm going to say odd. I'm just going to say it's odd. It's an odd question, but the question is, what level of importance do you place on physical fitness for your clients? So obviously, not at all what you'd expect to hear from Business Coaching Secrets, but is this perhaps a secret that's sort of unknown?
Yeah, totally. And by the way, your workout routine is a little more impressive than mine. Anybody who follows you on Instagram or Facebook can attest to that. Road Dog, I think you might bust. You're going to buy some new clothes there, big shoots. You're going to burst out of them. Okay, so look, here it is, man. Control your body, control your mind. It's a good question, quite frankly, and I do think it's a bit of a hack. But control your mind. Control your body, control your mind. Definitely something like your clients are going to feel better. The end as they're working out. Get them to do it in the morning. Simply put, no doubt if you're listening to this, you probably already know it, but if you don't, it's important. Work out in the morning, because what happens is you get something difficult done and out of the way. So both the coach should be doing it, and and this is what you're kicking your clients into doing. If they wake up at the end of the day, if your client doesn't get results, what are they going to do? They're going to cancel. Well, when they're working out, they're going to get more done. They got more oxygen running through their body. They feel better. They're going to be more focused because they got that nervous energy out of the system by working out in the morning. So they're going to get more done. Your client's going to feel strong. I don't know. I could go on, but bottom line is it absolutely needs to be done. But I also tell you this, mistake that we have is if you aren't working out in the morning and then you're trying to convince your client to work out in the morning, there's going to be a disconnect, right? So what happens is you end up having sympathy instead of empathy. It's the same thing like if you're a smoker and then another smoker will go find another smoker and then they'll quit together, right? It's just like stupidity on steroids. Somebody who's overweight finds somebody who's overweight and they try lose weight together. Now, if you're a smoker, go find a non-smoker to hold you accountable. That's how you stop smoking, right? If you're overweight, go find somebody who goes to the gym 5 times a week religiously over the last number of years. this is somebody who's going to stop. Otherwise, because you have sympathy, it's like, I know, I had a cigarette last night too. Oh man, it's hard. Like that, the guy who doesn't smoke, the gal who doesn't smoke, you're not going to get any of that. So the idea behind sympathy and empathy, another example that I like, the way I like to explain those two is if we're on a boat and you're throwing up, sympathy is me coming and throwing up with you. Empathy is rubbing your back, making you feel better, grabbing a blanket, holding you, making you a little bit warm, finding a bed, putting you under the covers and looking after you, right? It's like, oh, I feel so bad for you, but at the end of the day, I'm going to solve the problem, right? So you need empathy, not sympathy. So bottom line is, yes, I just started with it, control your body, control your mind. You want your clients to be doing that. But I would ask you, are you doing that routine in the morning? And if you're not, you're going to have a significantly harder time holding your coaching client accountable to it. And they will get better results if they're working out. And if they don't get results, they cancel your agreement. So the question is, are you going to push? Are you going to be that coach with sympathy and let them off the hook? Or are you going to be the coach with empathy going, yeah, look, I get it, but this is a must if we're going to work together because you tasked me with holding you accountable, making you more money, growing this business, accomplishing your goals. Well, it starts with physical fitness, bud. So let's go. So that's what I'd say to that, man. It's a good question, and I would agree with you, Road Dog. It is a hack.
So, did you ever smoke?
No, not really. I moved to Australia when I was young, and I was backpacking around. And I actually remember to this day, I woke up and I was like smoking every day, right? Because we were backpacking. It was just a thing to do, drinking, smoking. It just went hand in hand. And I woke up one day and I was kind of felt like a cigarette. And I just literally said to myself, like I had one of those like conversations with myself, like, man, are you going to be a smoker? Right? Like, and that literally I woke up and went, no more. That was the end. So not really. So the answer is no. But,
there you go. All right. Because I did. It's funny because they do say it's harder than quitting heroin, but
you did for years.
Yeah, it's but you know what? You just make a decision, right? And it's the craziest part is, and I guess I can tie this into perhaps some sort of entrepreneurial lesson in the Road Dog kind of a way, and that's just the weirdest part. Like, remember when they still had smoking sections in restaurants and stuff? It's like you walked in, it's like, would you like smoking or non-smoking? Like, how weird is that just to even look back on now? But
when you look back,
it's crazy because when what's that?
Oh, it's like having a peeing section in the pool, right? It's just like
right, yeah, exactly. Well said. I haven't heard that one before, but it was weird after I quit. The first time I went in after quitting smoking, they're like, and I said non-smoking. I'm like, so everyone from that day forward only knows me as a non-smoker, right? It's interesting. It's just a mindset shift. It's no different in business when you decide I'm doing this. Like, that's how you will be perceived. Like, your message today, I'm starting a messaging with this, and anyone new coming to you will only identify with that. So anyways, just sort of an interesting mind game thing. So there you go.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you something. So if you meet a smoker and then, you know what I mean, something along the lines of the topic of cigarettes come up, if they tell you it's been 124 days since I had a cigarette, they're still a smoker and they're going back. The end. When you become a non-smoker, you become a non-smoker in your mind, and then like it's not even an issue. Like the topic of cigarettes come up, and your mind does not go to it's been 126 days, and you most certainly do not count them. So if you meet somebody and they tell you, it's been X amount of time since I had a drink, again, and that's not to say you can't celebrate anniversaries. I think that's cool and smart, right? But day 124. If you're acknowledging that you're still a smoker, you're still a drinker, you still got the bad habit. So
I guess you're still fighting those demons, right? That's anyways. Wow, we speaking of rabbit holes.
Not only that, you're going back.
You're
going back. At that stage, the end is going to be a bad one. What's that, brother?
You just took me straight into your rabbit hole with you. Like I typically, I'm the guard at those things.
It's great down here, man. Come on, let's go.
It's a dark little place. Okay. Speaking of dark little places, how's that for a transition? Next question. Again, this is one that we get this a lot, Carl. But I love it. I love this question because it's like every time I ask you, it's like I could ask you this question 50 times and I get 50 different answers. I swear, just because it's just there's so many. But the biggest mistake that coaches make, like what are your insights on that now, especially with everything that's happening now? Like I'm sure the answers change.
Like what you said again, it's difficult because every time you ask it, you've kind of dependent upon your mood and what happened, the day before, the week before, the month before, whatever. Biggest mistake coaches make. Look, overcomplicating it is just, staying in your head. It's just not that freaking hard. I don't need to meet the business owner to know that they don't have their goals written down. They have their time management as a joke. 80-20 is something they read about, heard about, but they are not applying in any way. This saying is really, really powerful. Like knowing, like if you're not doing it, you don't know it. Because you'll say, hey, goal setting, you got to write down your goals. I go, yeah, I know. But no, hang on. No, you don't know because you're not doing it. So that conversation is over. So maybe that sympathy, empathy is relevant there, right? Like if they're not doing it, they do not know it, right? So 80-20, guys heard me talk about that plenty over the, many, many a times we've done this. Just 20% of their activity is going to derive 80% of their efficiency and whatnot. What am I trying to say? No, 20% of their activity will drive 80% of their productivity. What people don't think about, though, is you take a magnifying glass, put it over the 20. You can actually go 4 times. Like take 80-20 and then just picture the 20. And now take away the 80 and the 20 becomes 100. And then you go 80-20 within the 20. And then you knock away the 80 again. You go 80-20 within that 20. And then you go one more time, 80-20. And you find that like 1% of their activity is like 50%, of their revenue and whatnot. And then 2% is like 70. I can't remember exactly the calculation, but it's like 75%. So putting that magnifying glass over it. What am I saying? It's just easy to freaking help somebody. But you got to take the time to work out. Remember, if I go skiing and there's a map, the most important part of that map by 100 miles is the red arrow that says you are here, right? So where is your client really it's not only understand it, take the time to ask the right questions and then be perceptive enough of what's going on. Because remember, words are not necessarily they'll tell you all the things that they know. And then if you assume that they know all about goal setting in 80-20, you could make the misinterpretation there that they're actually applying it and then they're not. And this is where the magic lies. So bottom line is, biggest mistake coaches make is they overcomplicate it. It's just not that hard. Understanding percentages would be an example of a hack that could really help you here. Like remember, so if you got a client, they made $100,000 last year, and let's say they've got 20% margins, which would be roughly they'd be 10, 35 on the high side. Let's just say they got 20% margins, and then you help them get their margins from 20 to 30%. Well, on the surface and the untrained eye, that's like a 10% increase, right? Well, if they made $100,000, 10% would be what? $10,000. Well, but only problem is that you're not seeing it right. 20 to 30 is a 50% increase, not 10, because 10 would be 20 to 22. 20 would be 20 to 24. 30 would be 20 to 26%, right? So when you go from 20 to 30, it's a 50% increase. They were making $100,000 a minute ago. Guess what? You just made them $50,000, and you haven't made a sale. You haven't driven traffic. You haven't created a funnel. You haven't hired salespeople, right? Like you've gone through their credit card statements and their expenses and held them accountable with empathy and not sympathy, right? So, and if you charge $2,000 a month, that's $24,000 a year. Well, just by going into their profit margins and working on that component of their business, you made them $50,000. You're looking pretty good. So bottom line is getting in your head and feeling like you need to know it all. That's not the case. There's just as a consultant, you roll up and you've just got a bigger set of eyes. The same way that I could step in and look at your marriage, and then you could step in and see my marriage and just go, look, here's where there's some challenges, right? Like they're so obvious and they're there, but when you're living it and you're amongst it, you're in the middle of the forest and you can't see the trees. So anyways, so it's just, being in your head. Actually, this is another good point. Think of it this way, like the level of pain you achieve and yet like understand the way I just described that, pain is something that you achieve is the same level of success that you will achieve, right? So I'll meet a business coach all the time, and the acid test is, will you cold call? And if you tell me that you refuse to cold call, and when I say cold call, there's cold outreach. Just the bottom line is, are you willing to, be humble enough and take it on the chin enough where we all know what cold calling represents, right? Lots of no's, very few yeses, but this is just the way you get to where you ultimately need to get to. Well, the person that says they're not willing to cold call, I just know immediately that they are not willing to pay the price to get it. And then think of what I just said. The level of pain you achieve is the same level of success you will achieve. Okay? They will be equal. So if you pick up the phone and you experience some pain and some no's and some people telling you where to go, etc., but to get to the people who ultimately you're going to help, the level of success that you are going to achieve is going to be significantly more. You will not meet a self-made millionaire who has not knocked on doors. Like, you just don't, right? So what does that tell you? That there's the example. But I think that the power of that is insane. So pain is something you achieve, again, like hockey, right? So I played some hockey in my days. I mean, I've broken everything. My nose 5 times, 8 fake teeth, my elbow, my wrist. I hyperextended my knee, my eye socket, everything, right? Like, just freaking broke every, you know what I mean? There's the number of times you're limping around. But at the end of the day, if you want to be a good hockey player, you got to be willing to be able to take the punishment. You're not going to meet a guy playing professional hockey that doesn't have a list of injuries, of separated shoulders and broken bones. The end. And then the guy who doesn't make it because he wasn't going into the corners and he wasn't getting pulverized. He wasn't willing to stick up for his teammates, etc. Right? So anyways, level of pain, I think that's something you achieve. And just, yeah, that's the biggest mistake, Road Dog. That's it, man. Just overcomplicating it and then not being willing. And you don't have to cold call. This is another, you probably heard me talk about this before, but it's super powerful. Back in like the concentration camp days, if you speak to somebody who was there, they will tell you it was horrific. It was a nightmare. But every one of them will line up and tell you the worst part of all was not knowing when it was going to end. Okay? Therefore, when you're cold calling, I've got to make you feel comfortable. And, if you work with us and our 800 coaches and the software and, finding people $100,000 in 45 minutes, et cetera, without question, it does end. But unfortunately, it doesn't end automatically. It's going to take you 90 days. It's going to take you 6 months. It might take you a year, depending upon how good you are at it, how passionate you are at it, how many runs on the board that you get, how many success stories, how many testimonials, how good you are on a stage. Because one of the things we do is help our coaches live event mastery. We got a bulletproof program for putting people in a room where you do a presentation. Well, if you're magic at the front of the room and highly entertaining, you're going to have a leg up big time on somebody who's coming at it from a bit of a monotone, more analytical approach. By the way, analytical monotone approaches work for lots of people in the room as well. But the person who's entertaining will definitely get further. So anyways, that's, but yeah, Road Dog, that's the big one, man. Just overcomplicating it in their head and not enjoying and getting, I don't know if enjoying is the right word, but the pain is something that you achieve. It's very different. It's a paradigm shift on steroids for most.
I love how you said the not knowing, right? Like that sounds familiar right now, doesn't it? Like none of us really know when this is going to end, which is why people are probably losing their minds.
Exactly. That is it. 100%. This is why we've gone from everybody's life. Like if you look on your Facebook feed, I guarantee you've noticed this. We went from everybody's life matters to nobody's life matters, right? Like it shifted. Remember, people, you make your decision with logic, okay, and then you back it up with facts. Well, all that's happened is your logic has changed, and now you're looking at different facts, right? Initially, you were like, oh my God, grandma, grandpa, mom, dad, gotta save them, right? Now you're like, grandma's not in a home. She's going to be friggin' fine. I get a 99.5% chance of beating this thing if I get it anyways, which is the same as the flu, so I'm good, right? So that's, yeah, that's an interesting one, man. That's where we're at. So,
well, it's interesting. I'm sure you've seen it too. We've all seen it, right? Like all of the unbelievable benefits to the environment, cleaning up of pollution and everything else that's occurred over this past, month and a half, basically now. And I saw somebody post, and I thought it was rather interesting. Imagine if we just did this voluntarily for 1 month, every year, you just rotate through the months, right? Like just, okay, next year, June, it's like we're all quarantined. And you just go to your vacation spot where you're going to hang out for 30 days and call it a day. But at least you'd have a start and a finish, and that wouldn't make it so bad. And people probably embrace it thinking, wow, cool, I got a 30-day vacation.
Oh, 30 days off. Oh my God. You can only imagine, right? Where there just wasn't, it was taboo to like send you an email, this sort of thing.
Yeah.
It'd be freaking magic, right?
Yeah.
But you're right. This is the not knowing when it's going to end. This is the death knell.
Okay.
Look, bro, it comes back to, we talked about this last week. Just again, you know how people are driven by certainty and uncertainty?
Yep.
Well, very few people are driven by uncertainty. Some are, some aren't. But the uncertainty of it, like your level of, how do I word this? Your level of happiness is normally, you can normally, what's the right word? Predict it by the level of uncertainty you can handle. So think about that, right? So right now there's so much uncertainty, some people just can't handle it.
Right.
Like the end. And not knowing, again, feeling like, and then it's what's the economy going to look like? And we finally come back, our business is all going to shut down, or we're not going to be able to find a restaurant. All our friends going to be bankrupt, and they're going to lose their houses and lose their cars. That's all uncertainty, right? Like, so it drives people mad, dude.
Well, and I think some of it, Karl, is a lot of BS. Again, this is your podcast, not mine. I swear on mine. There's a lot of like this whole conversation of people like, I just can't wait to get back to normal. It's like they're trying to create certainty for themselves by saying that. The craziest part is It's not true. Like we're not going back to how it was. Like restaurants will not be at 100% capacity for probably a year. You know what I mean? Like it's a bit of a myth. And I think that's pretty fascinating how everyone's just clinging on to, I just want to go back to how it was. But it's never going to be that again. So thoughts on that?
The end.
There you go. All right. I love this question. This is awesome because it's one of my coaches. He's running up against a wall sometimes with this sort of thing too. And he's asked me this very question as well. You know what it's like as a business coach, you're out, as you say, you're building that muscle and making those phone calls. And then you hear a lot of no's. I'm broke. I don't have the money. So here's a great question for you. I hear about $50,000 coaching programs. If I'm honest with you, it doesn't sound real. Where should I find such a prospect, and how do you get a $50,000 client sold? Absolutely love this question. Take it away.
Okay, love it. Yeah, look, okay, high five, dude. I'll agree with that one. Okay, just look, it's mindset. Right now, again, everybody, like not everybody is broke. Not everybody is hand to mouth and, 30 days being locked in your house. Not everybody is, going to the, on food stamps and running to the Salvation Army. So again, just, it's psychology that those folks are out there, and believe me, they have more money and access to more money than you realize. I have done 35. I've done many $100,000 coaching deals. In fact, my biggest was $750,000, multiple $500,000 deals. So I promise you from my heart, absolutely can be done. You got to also understand, though, that to say that I was passionate about and to say that I worked my butt off, and definitely I would fall into the workaholic. In other words, you got to work your backside off as a rule, or you got to be super talented. Again, I think that's important. If you're going to charge, what do they use? $50,000. Let's just go with $50,000. You better be delivering $100,000 of value, and not value because your audios are so great and your videos are so amazing, and your live event, if they actually come, is really going to be game changing. It's money in their bank account, the end, right? Like, again, whatever it takes. Remember, my daughter, she wants to clean her room. She doesn't want to clean her room. It's a non-negotiable. Whatever I've got to do, if I got to go and help her, I got to be harsh. I got to take something away. I've got to be funny. I got to make a game out of it. Whatever it is on that particular day, that's what I got to do. But cleaning her room is a non-negotiable. Brushing her teeth, it's a non-negotiable. You know what I mean? Like, you've got to take that approach. Otherwise, you're getting $50,000 from somebody not delivering on it. That's not going to reflect very well on your reputation. Referrals are not going to come. And let me tell you, $50,000 coaching clients refer at about 100 times the speed that the $1,000, $12,000, $1,000 per month, $12,000 per year client does. So the bottom line, and what do you need to, like, the not so obvious answer is just a good salesperson. If you're not a good salesperson, again, you're not going to be able to bring the benefits across to get a $50,000 deal done. So you're going to need to sharpen your sales skills. Like, how many times do I talk to a coach who says, look, I suck at sales? And I go, well, you understand the critical importance of sales to coaching, right? Like, not only to get the client, but to get the client to work out in the morning, to get the client to create the upsell, to create the downsell, to make the changes to his website, to create the new brochure, to get, to embody the new, not just come up with the new headline, but to really embody it. I mean, this takes some time, right? Like, or this takes some ingenuity, this takes some force. You got to make sure that you're pushing through and you're making sure these things are not only, coming up with, but you've got to get them done. Well, you're going to be a salesperson. You're going to sell them on the fact that they're going to have massive wins and that they can get it done. And yes, they have the time. And yes, they have the expertise. And yes, at an absolute minimum, this is worth a test. So that's important. So I meet a coach, they're no good at sales. And then I'm like, well, how many books on sales have you read in the last 30 days? And then how many audios on sales have you listened to in the last 30 days? And how many videos have you watched? And then I meet a really hot sales guy. And then he's like, yeah, look, man, I can get any deal done falling off a log and I magic on stage, but the coaching nerves me. And I say, okay, well, how much time have you spent studying, coaching and getting results for clients in the last 30, 60, 90 days? And we know what the answers are to these things, right? So the solution is right there in front of you. But very few do it. But the bottom line, $50,000 coaching deals, look, it's just not that much, like $2,000 a month. Like, you need to be a $2,000 a month coach to really make it in this business. You might start at $1,000 a month, but you move up the food chain. $2,000 a month is $24,000 a year. You're halfway there, right? So if you close the client on a retainer at $2,000 a month and then add a 10% contingency, one of the big ways that you get there is through profit sharing. And again, I did those deals back in the day. I mean, this is where I made my money, right? On profit. Like, not on the front end was impressive, but the back end was more impressive. Like, when they got the results, I got paid. If you do a contingency deal, very important, don't do it off of profit. You do it off of revenue. Why? Profit can be manipulated 9 ways to Sunday. Okay, so you don't put yourself in that position, and it just, frankly, it ruins the coaching relationship. So if you do a contingency, you always do it on gross revenue, which they can't it's not that they can't manipulate it, but they just, looking at their financials, it's right there, sitting at the top. And then you got to have things like, look, you can't just show up. Like, if you're a coach and you're just time for money, like, you don't have a membership site, you don't have a book, you don't have intellectual property, you don't have our software, you don't have a roadmap to follow, look, you're probably not going to get the deal done. It's not that you're not even going to get the deal done. You might manage to do that if you're an incredible salesperson, but you're not going to keep the client, because you can't just show up once a week and then expect the client to get everything. So an example is, if I'm coaching Road Dog, I'm coaching you and you're paying me the $50,000. Before the call, I'm sending you my video on goal setting. And then when we get together on Monday, we're going over goal setting, and you come armed with your goals. And then we're assessing them. In other words, my coaching time is spent in application, okay? And the education, I want to farm that out. You've got to read this. You've got to listen to this. You've got to watch this. So you've got intellectual property like written word, audio, and then video. Very important. Again, with our coaches, we provide all that in an online business academy. It's got over 200 hours of step-by-step instructional video. Absolutely magic. So you're coaching your client. You want it to be as much as possible about application, not just, if you're showing up and you're doing, like, let's say you got 10 clients, and then with 10 clients, you're explaining goal setting on the phone. That is not an effective use of your time in any way. And one of the major things is, like, you could explain goal setting to me, Road Dog, right now, or I could explain it to you. We're not going to take it all in. Remember, these guys aren't coaches. These are business owners, and they say they understand goal setting, but they really don't understand the step-by-step application of goal setting. So when you send them to the video, like Road Dog, I send you to the video, you can watch it 1, 3, 5, 10 times. You can watch it twice and they go, oh my God, this is great. Bring in your wife to watch it with you. Bring in your sales manager to watch it with you. Bring in your ex-operations guy to watch it with you, right? You see, so the power of the intellectual property, like they can actually go in and watch this 1, 3, 5 times. And remember, guys, like when you did a subject in school, and of course I was a horrific student, so I did a couple of classes twice, right? So I know the second time I freaking whizzed it, right? I was like, oh my God, this is like I'm a math genius, right? But in actuality, I was doing something the second time and I got so much more out of it. What am I saying? When you watch a video, often when you watch it a second time, you'll get significantly more magic than you will the first time. And not only will you get the magic, but the deeper, sometimes there's a little bit of irony in there and some kind of, like some symbolism and whatnot, where there's a deeper message coming through. Well, you're able to pull that out the second time and it goes over top of your head the first. So that's what I would say. But so, okay, hang on. If you're going to build a $50,000, $100,000, $250,000 coaching program, you'll need to have these. You have to have audio, because some people want to drive in the car. Like just yesterday, I drove my daughter somewhere. I did about 3 hours, an hour and a half there, an hour and a half back. Drove to Merritt. 3 hours in the car. Guess what I was doing on the way back? I was totally listening to audios in the car. So audio, you got to have video. Okay, where there's an explanation, where there's a diagram, they got to be able to see it. You got to have intellectual property, or those are intellectual property, but sorry, I mean written word. Because some people want to watch and some people want to read, right? Like I speed read, so I'd prefer to read your document, and most certainly watching a video at 1-time speed probably not going to happen. So there's just different coaching clients will appreciate different way of learning, and then you got to have a live event included in there, right? So if you buy, like a social proof is an important part of closing a deal. When you've got a live event, you just simply say, okay, well, they're closing it, and you go, what if it's not going to work? And you say, well, look, I've got between me and my team of coaches, we've got 50 clients, we've got 100 clients. We bring them all to the XYZ, to the Hilton every, twice a year. If we weren't doing a good job and we weren't following through, this would be business suicide, so we'd never do it. I go, oh, wow, okay, yeah, look, that's a very good point, and it'll help the social proof and help get those coaching clients done. So you got to have audio, got to have video, got to have text, got to have live events, and then a contingency agreement built in there as well, where you're making a piece of the back end. And remember, do your contingency agreements on revenue, not just on profits or a flat fee, at certain milestones. Like let's say you do $1 million. Once you hit, say you've got a $50,000 up. Okay, actually, okay, so anyways, you get it. I just described a $50,000 coaching program. Here's another creative way you could structure it. Okay, I charge when I work with a client, I really, back in the day, I'd really dig in. And I would really understand their business intimately before we got started. Okay, so what I do, and again, we're going to use 50,000 as the number that we use in the question. Let's use that. I charge $25,000 up front, or actually, let's say, hang on, let me just think here. Let's say, I want to go 10. Actually, I charge $25,000 up front, and then I charge $2,000 a month, right? So that's going to be $49,000, correct? So the $25,000 though, here's the way I'm going to structure it. You got to pay me $19.97, in other words, $2,000 a month on a retainer, and then in order to realize my $25,000 upfront fee, what we're going to do is, what are your current revenues? We establish they're $1 million, right? We get their financials, we're looking at them, they're $1 million, and it's like, okay, well, when we hit, here's the way we're going to do it. I get paid $5,000. 5 times this year once you hit milestones. Okay, so you're at $1 million. Once you hit 1.2 million, I get a $5,000 bonus towards my $25,000. Once you hit 1.4, I get another $5,000. 1.6, I get another $5,000. 1.8, another $5,000, and then at 2 million, another $5,000. So you see how I set. So we started the relationship. I'm $19.97 a month. And then what I had is a $25,000 upfront fee that I'm willing to waive for him. But remember, you're going to get in and get bloody dirty with their business and really understand it at a really intimate level. Well, at these specific milestones you hit, you get a $5,000 bonus. Here's a bit of the magic. I don't know magic, but here's the reality. That is going to make a coaching client feel really, really confident that you are going to help them get from $1 to $2 million. And believe me, this is something that they probably want. Be amazed if not. And you're going to do it in a structured way so that their expenses aren't going to go through the roof to protect them and make sure that they're profiting wildly throughout. Okay, so what if once they hit those milestones, you get your $5,000? What if you took on the client and then he had a separation, he had a divorce, he had a health scare? And let's say the business doesn't bloody get anywhere, and you end up doing life coaching and helping this guy through a bunch of personal and mental challenges. And let's just say he gets $1 million and he only gets to 1.1. So he's had a small increase. It's 10%, not impressive, but he's been through the storm this year. Guess what? You got a $24,000 coaching client. You didn't get your $50,000 and you didn't get your $25,000 upfront fee, but you got your $2,000 a month coaching client. And I can tell you here and tell you now that $25,000 upfront fee that you would normally charge, that you're willing to accept on milestones, is really going to help you get that deal done. It makes them feel like, holy smokes, this guy really believes that I can go from $1 to $2 million, to the point where he's not going to get his normal fee unless I reach these milestones. Kaboom, sign me up. So that's there's a couple different ways of structuring a $50,000 plus client. I want to finish with this, Road Dog. It's really important. Now, to close a $50,000 coaching client, you need to have significantly more rapport, which basically means you've got to be a better salesperson, because a good salesperson knows that building rapport is absolutely stinking critical. You're going to need to have a lot of rapport. In order to get that rapport, you've normally got to have you need to have a story, right? And you've got to make sure that you bring your story across. In fact, I'll give you an example of my own world. Like, we just hired a full-time software engineer, heavyweight guy. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars committed, big time. This guy's a heavyweight. This guy's good. We hired him full-time because our software, we've got so many improvements and so many advancements, and a lot of them are very complex. We just released a 2.1 version last Wednesday. And basically what it does is actually works out the contingency agreement for you that I mentioned a minute ago, right? So you're going through and you're charging X, and you want to put a 10% contingency on, it factors it all in for you, right? So we've got a lot of really impressive, some functionality that's coming to it. Well, when I was hiring him, it wasn't like I just said, hey, man, do you want to come work for us? And he said, oh, yeah, man, I'll quit my job that I've been at for over a decade. I'll take a punt. I'll assume that you're legit, blah, blah. He didn't just jump in with both feet. I mean, he was interviewing us and me as much as we were interviewing him, right? Part of how I got him into the job is that when I spoke to him, and of course I just know this, and I knew this instinctively, and there's a learning objective here big time for you as you're listening to this. When I hit him with the job, I didn't of course he's going to make this, and, this is how many, the benefits that are involved. And, we go to Cancun once a year, and we're going to get you there, and we'll bring your wife, blah, 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 all that stuff, right? But really what I sold him on is man, one day you're going to be able to say that you're the guy that built the software. Imagine, Salesforce.com. Imagine if you were on the project in the early days, right? And you're like, yeah, I was part of building Salesforce, or you were the person who built Salesforce. And I sold them, and not bullcrap, but I wasn't making some, I'm not saying next year we're going to be, a $10 billion company, right? But what I was doing is I was selling him on the bigger picture, and the fact that, with my staff, I've had, a young guy, Craig McLean, I think it was my little brother. He's worked for me side by side for 12 years. Another guy, Big Al, he's been with me for 7 or 8 years. Chris Kling's been with us for a year less, 6 years. Danny, she's been my accountant, bookkeeper for, 6, 7 years. Adrian's been my business partner for a decade. So what I'm getting at is we have and I sold them on the family, the family approach to it, right? And we look after one another. We don't have arguments and throw the phones and scream and yell. And when there's a mistake, it's not who can we take the finger and point it at? No, it's all hands on deck. we grab metaphorically like a pizza, but we don't do that because we do it virtually. But you know what I mean? We make a small group, right? Who you say that if a group needs more than one pizza, it might be too big, right? So you want to keep it nice and tight. But we all get together and we solve the problem. Bottom line, what am I getting at? Story, right? So as part of hiring him, story played a huge part in convincing him that we were the real deal and he should be here. And I knew that going in. What am I saying? If you're going to get $100,000 coaching client, you're going to need a story. You don't just go in there and show them audios, videos, the intellectual property they're going to get, and you're going to kick them in the ass once a week, and that's going to get the deal done. Like, that's not the way to approach it. You really want them to understand you. You want to understand them, and rapport plays a huge part. So Road Dog, that's the way I'd finish that one, man. But agreed, dude. That's a great question.
Hey, I took like half a page of notes there. That was good. So the good news is you still got some wisdom in you, so that's key. That's nice. That hasn't changed. Hey, you always refer to the monthly thing, right? I love the milestones, by the way. That's just so easy, right? Like, I know sometimes people can get a little bent when it comes to a contingency, which is the way to go, people. Like, there's no two ways about it. But that milestone one is a simple, like that's just simple. But you always talk monthly. Like, just why do you never talk about, because that's the question. I'm like, I wonder why he never like talks about 3 to 6 month contracts. Because I see a lot of people out there offering that. Is there a reason behind that, Karl?
Yeah. No, actually, back in the day, well, yeah, there is. Okay, so look, back in the day, again, we do, I do some big, do 5-year deals. But here's the thing: if you're coaching, if you're legit and you're working it, and they're working it, and you guys are crushing it, like, or the opposite, sorry, right? Like, it's you're legit, they're legit, you get going, but there's just not a good fit, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I was a bit of a pit bull, and if I'm coaching you, don't show up and tell me all the reasons why you didn't get it done. Because remember, I didn't coach you to keep you. I coached you to change your freaking life. And if you weren't interested in changing your freaking life, I'm gone. And by the way, take that with a grain of salt. It's not like, one strike and you're out. That would be ridiculous, right? But I didn't take the approach of coaching you to keep you. I took the approach of, you're an alcoholic, I don't drink, and I don't want to freaking hear it. No, you took a sip, you screwed up, and now you're hungover, and now you slept in, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Like, that's just the approach it needs to be. Same with the smoking. So, yeah, that was kind of the approach. So not everybody's right for one another. So if it's not working and you want to get them out and they want to get out, just let them swim away, right? So, and the 12 months, okay, so say I'm trying to close your Road Dog and I'm trying to bring you into coaching. I just feel like the trick is to get the deal done, right? Like, that's the hardest part. Coaching is bloody easy. Remember, my daughter, when she was 16, she went to get a job at McDonald's. And I just said to her, baby, you got to understand this. I go, the hardest part of this by 100 miles is going to be convincing them to hire you over the other 13 girls applying for the job, or guys, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like the fries and the Big Macs and flipping the burger and, working at the front and saying, do you want fries with that? And do you want me to supersize it, et cetera? I'm like, it's so systemized. It's just freaking easy, right? And you're going to be great at it. But understand, this is like a sales job. You got to go in there and get this deal done. And getting the deal done is getting the job at McDonald's. So if I'm trying to get the deal done with you, Road Dog, and there's a 12-month agreement, there is an argument to say that that's going to make you nervous, right? Like, where do I really want to commit to this guy for 12 months? Whereas if I just do it month to month and I'll say that, you've got to provide us 30 days of notice, right? So there is a level of commitment there, but not a huge one. I think there's an element of confidence that comes with that A, is going to make them feel more comfortable, i.e. start the relationship. And B, if they're unhappy with you and you're unhappy with them, like, it's ending anyways. The paperwork's not going to, you know what I mean? And then let's say we get to 2 months, Road Dog, and you and I it's just not working, right? Like, for me to hold you, make you pay me another X amount, like to the tune of $50,000 over the next 10 months, I'm just a jerk off. And it would never would never work, quite frankly, because coaching, it's not like you deliver the car and you decide you don't like it. That's a very different relationship, a very different transaction. That being said, there's also going to be somebody listening, and they're going to be adamant. There's somebody, if they're not willing to commit to 12 months and they're just not really committed to me, and they're not committed to the coaching and to the relationship. And frankly, there is an argument to say that. So what I would encourage folks to do is just test it a little bit. But I'll tell you this, if you're good, and remember, the job is to always be the best. Like, that's what solves all of these problems that we're talking about. Every question we ever get, I could answer with that. Like, the secret is no secret. It's to be the best. And if you're the best, the coaching client doesn't want you going anywhere. The coaching, they don't want you to not show up on Monday. And that needs to be your job and your goal. And, again, just your coaching style. Make sure you don't coach just to save them. You coach to impact their life positively. It'll change everything, and they'll want to keep you around. So yeah, Road Dog, you are correct. We talk monthly all the way. There's argument for both, but at the end of the day, man, my job is to help people get high-end coaching deals done. And I just know that it's easier for the prospect to get their head around a month-to-month deal versus a 12-month agreement. So, and Road Dog, I'll finish with this. Look, who are we talking to? Is it a newbie with 3 months experience, or is it a coach with a lineup of people wanting to work with them? Okay, if you're super experienced and you did $500,000 last year and you're crushing it, look, 12 months and, you know what I mean? Forget it. Like, got to make sure that we know who we're talking to, right? So I'm assuming that we're talking to somebody trying to get this whole thing up and running when I'm describing that. If you've been around the block and you're not looking for a client and you've got a lineup of people, feel free, do the 12 months. I mean, I did, yearly agreements, like more than a year is what I mean. So there you go, Road Dog. That's my answer, bud.
So just real quick, bud, like I gotta say, it's funny how you hear too, right? Like, no one's got any money, all this sort of thing. It's like, well, as a matter of fact, didn't the U.S. just print another $1 trillion and inject it into, like, didn't they just do that? So the thing that's crazy is there's actually literally more money in the system. It's still changing hands, right? That's the crazy part to me. And it's interesting to me because the more I look at it, I always look at it, look, what are people paying for? They're paying for you to solve their problems. So the question I challenge everybody with is, do you think maybe people have more problems now than they did 3 months ago? Like, that's kind of the way that I want to look at that. So, Karl, maybe just to close out, can you just finish just a quick minute about, like, what would you look for in terms of where would you find these people that would be able to afford you? Like, what do you think they're doing right now that might perhaps Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Again, remember, a mentor is somebody who can tell you what not to do, what not to do. I think that's so powerful. So remember, when somebody's teaching you, watch for that in their verbiage, language, and what their instruction. Don't go to BNI to find your $100,000 a year client. And by the way, then somebody's like, oh yeah, but I found one. Yeah, I know, but we don't deal with anomalies. We deal with percentages. When you go to BNI, you're going to find the little guys, right? So where do you go? You go to who is advertising right now. Boom, there. Go to businesses for sale. A guy's trying to get $3 million for his business, but after quick observation, it's like this thing might not be ready for sale. And you can go to their website. You can look at their brochure, look at their ads, look at their website and what they've got on there. This could tell you a lot about whether or not they're maximizing, because they want to get X for it. But what if they could get X plus 10, 20, 30%, and you could help them do that? So look in those types of places. Rather than BNI, like, go to the yacht club, right? Like, remember, Road Dog, you and I did that. We did a live event. We live in the same city, right? So I'm like, Road Dog, where are we going to do this? Like, what's the most expensive? You said yacht club. And I go, that's where we're doing it, right? So go to the yacht club and buy a membership. Boom. Like, this is where people with, boats and expensive boats are hanging out. And people who have, if you line up 10, $100,000 boats, and of course they could be significantly more expensive than that, but let's just say 10 $100,000 boats. I will bet 8 of them are owned by business owners. Right? What am I saying? The yacht club it's not the yacht club. It's like a business gathering kind of joint. The golf course, same thing. You go play golf. Guys that are ripping around, and they got the Mercedes in the club, in the parking lot and whatnot. You're going to find a good percentage of them, not as high as the yacht club, but a good percentage of them are going to be business owners. So a great place to network. And then there's the par 3 lightweight course, and then there's the course that charges you an enormous membership fee to be there. For an annual membership, and you got to make a booking a month in advance to get on the course. Which one do you think you go to? Where do you spend some time? So, yeah, it costs you some money to join these groups and whatnot, but you get into the quote unquote the club, right? So, in city I grew up, what was it called? The petroleum. So oil. I grew up in oil and gas world, right? So there was the I can't even say petroleum club, the petroleum club, right? That's where all the heavyweights hung out. And by the way, it's the old boys club. So if you think you're going to buy a membership, show up on the first night and have everybody just, like you're all of a sudden the life of the party, and that might happen, and that, depending upon your personality and whatnot, but don't expect that to happen. An old boys club is an old boys club for a reason. Takes a little bit of time to get in. But be smart about that, right? Delayed gratification, right? Like, again, do you want to eat broccoli or chocolate? Everybody says they want to eat broccoli, but if they show up to my event and there's chocolate and broccoli, everybody grabs to the tune of 90% the damn chocolate, right? Even though they asked me in advance to bring broccoli for them. So that instant gratification, you've got to fall in love with the delayed gratification. Actually, Road Dog, I want to answer delayed gratification. This is something I left out of the $50,000 coaching client. This is, again, some unbelievable advice. Scaled pricing. Okay, so like a coach, a really good coach sucks as a salesperson on average. So what they do is they go from $2,000 coaching fees to $1,000 coaching fees because they can't get the $2,000 deal done. Okay, here is freaking hack on bloody steroids. And again, if you've listened to this podcast, you've heard me say this before, but this is bloody gold. $500, $1,000, $1,500, and then $2,000 a month. So you suck at sales. You just got a $24,000 coaching client done for $500 up front. Boom. So anyways, Road Dog, that's that's where you got to. Who's advertising? And again, if they got a line ad or they've got a full page ad, who do you think's got more invested? Who do you think's trying to grow at significantly higher speed, the smaller ad or the full page ad? It's very obvious, right? You go to, all kinds of sites online, like online directories and even biz buy sell, of course, Google and Instagram, and who's advertising on that? Like every time I'm online and I see a coach advertising, I immediately write the person's name down, right? I go find him on Facebook, I friend him, go like a photo of him and his family, whatever. Make a comment. Sometimes he puts something funny up. I'll just comment and go, ha, 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 right? Like, so anyway, so this is how you get it going. But Road Dog, that's the answer, man. You got to use your, just a little bit of 101 common sense, but like BNI on average, which is where all the coaches go. And that's a good place to start. That doesn't mean you don't join BNI, but it just means that don't expect to find your $100,000 coaching clients en masse at BNI. That's not going to happen. So I hope that helps, brother.
So it's funny you mentioned the P Club. Just for my little end note here, a buddy of mine is actually a member of the Petroleum Club, and you want to know the power of proximity. He says to me, "Hey, next time you're in Calgary, just let me know. I'll introduce you to the Premier. He's a buddy of mine now." I'm like, "Are you kidding me?"
Oh,
so,
boom!
Like proximity, man. It's great.
This is it. There you go. This is
all right, man. Well, awesome. As per usual, I'm gonna do something with these notes. I'm not just gonna look at them and make myself feel happy for the rest of the week that I learned a thing or two. But I hope everybody does the same thing. I hope you guys got some value out of this. And again, thanks for tuning in to another great episode of Business Coaching Secrets with the main man of the hour, Mr. King Karl himself. Again, if you want more information on how to build your coaching company, definitely check out focused.com. And again, if you enjoyed the podcast, please share it with an existing coach, someone you think that would be a great coach, especially now. A lot of people are looking for a new opportunity. Definitely point them our way. And of course, we'd appreciate a great review, right? If you're finding any value in what you're doing, again, these people always weigh we want to be at the top of the rankings. And the only way to do that is by having lots of positive reviews. So if you like what you heard, please leave us a review. Again, check out focus.com. And remember, everybody, progress equals happiness. Take care.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0 to train business coaches how to find any small business owner more than $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising. This becomes a business coach's superpower. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at focused.com.